Welcome, everyone. Glad you guys can be here today. We're going to be exploring Mylio Photos and taking a look at using it in terms of a app to organize content with your family photos, as well as how to improve some of the searching and the finding of things. So a lot of fun stuff to cover. This is designed for those of you that are newer to the application. So whether you've already tried it out or you're thinking about giving it a try out, we'll take a look at that. This feeling of not being able to find your stuff or feeling overwhelmed is pretty common, particularly as we start adding in things from lots of different time periods. It's very easy to have it all mixed together and feel a bit overwhelming. So, what we're going to talk about here is how we can add information to our files to make them easier to organize and keep our family history in good shape. So, we'll talk about how to tag people, how to add location information, how to put dates into material that you've scanned, as well as how you can embed information so it's in your files in case you share them or post them to other places so that that metadata moves with your files. And so we'll also talk about how to search and how to work cloud free if you choose to, as well as different ways to protect your library to multiple drives so you have backup copies of your data. Okay. My name is Rich Harrington, and I have worked with photo software for many years, but like many people, I also have family. And as a family, we have been trying to capture and preserve more and more of our family history. So I've been routinely scanning in more and more things from our archives to try to make sure that they're ready to share across our generations. So I work on our product team. I help design features that are in the product, as well as work with customers to better understand what their needs are so we can increase that. And through the years, I've published about 40 books and 200 video courses just to help people do more with their photography and whatnot. And I am going to turn on a cursor thing here if I can remember how to do that. Give me 1 second, because this is one of the things that people always say afterwards was they wish my cursor was easier to see. And I think I have something for that right here. Enable. There we go. Okay, perfect. And so we are talking about Mylio Photos. Mylio Photos is an application that you can use for free on a single device, as well as Mylio Photos Plus, which allows you to collaborate across multiple devices and gives you that added benefit of being able to work from anywhere, which I find quite useful so that you can take your tablet with you and get organized. It's much easier for me to take my phone out or tablet out when I'm having lunch with my mom than it is to lug a laptop to the meeting and try to work together collaboratively. The smaller touchscreen device works a lot easier for that. So the way Mylio Photos works is when you have Mylio Photos Plus installed, you could put it on all of your devices. And this includes Windows, Mac OS, Android, and iOS, as well as connected hard drives and things like that. And it allows you to sort of pull everything together into one place, which can be quite useful. Okay. So, one of the things that I suggest is that as you're adding content in, you want to start to add information to your files. So, for example, I did a bunch of scanning the other day, and I'm going to go to my scans folder. And here is a new folder called To Sort that I've been starting to process. And there's a lot in here, right? It's all was kind of grouped in different ways. I've got everything from my mom's Girl Scout card to newspaper announcements and wedding announcements, photo of my grandfather as a teenager back from the military, all sorts of things here that need to get ingested. And the goal is that we can actually get this information a bit more organized by pulling things in. So, for example, right here, I see that this is Theodore Compita, father of my grandfather. So, they have very similar names, but ultimately, that information on the back of the photo isn't as useful as if I actually go in and get that information into the face itself. So this was the alternate spelling of his name that he used. and I can actually tag that photo with his name. So now it becomes associated with him as an individual. Now, we're going to talk more about what that looks like, but you can see here, you can go through and add face tags for people, identifying who they are. As I see here, this is my grandfather, a great grandfather, actually, Nicholas. And so he's mistagged there. I'll correctly tag him. And that information gets picked up by the photos. Well, adding face tags is one of many ways to make it easier to organize things, but that gives you tons of benefits. For example, if I just want to, very quickly across the almost 500,000 content pieces I have, with just a click, I can filter down to all the photos of my great grandmother. Didn't matter what device they were on or what folder they were in, I can find those and be able to put them together and have them be accessible in a much more meaningful way. So the use of face tags and the ability to search or filter on something like a face tag makes it easy to then find that content and be able to do something with it as you want to work with it. Okay. So as you can see here, quite a bit of content. All right, let's talk about some of the things we can do. So first up, one of the things I suggest as an advantage of Mylio is its ability to help you organize a family history. So you can assign things like dates to scanned material, and you can also put quite a bit of other info in there. Sorry, did somebody else have something? Okay. So we can add that information in, and everything you add to the photo is actually compatible with the Family History Metadata Working Group, which is a group of professional organizations, and they set standards so these files will work across history, as well as on sites like Family Search and others, so that the information that you add in one program can be shared and discovered by other people in future generations. So this also includes museums and historical organizations, and Mylio is fully compatible with these metadata standards. So an easy way to access that when you're in Mylio is up here from the More menu, you can choose to enable family history mode. And that reorganizes and gives you some features to sort of help with this. So apologies for the dog barking in the background. There's not much I could do about it. We just got a new puppy a week ago. She barks, so my apologies. All right, so here I click and I see some information that I can better organize. We've already tagged some folks, but I want to assign a more meaningful date to this picture. So I see that this photo is from August of 1972. That was when it was developed. We can assume that it was captured somewhere near then. So if I want to, I can modify that information. For example, I could select all these pictures here, come on over to the info panel and click for date shown. And if I open that up, I can assign things. You'll notice that we let you be super specific with an exact timestamp, a range of dates if you're not sure, or the ability to assign just a month and a year. So in this case, I'm going to assign these as August 1972. And the benefit there is that they'll sort correctly on my calendar. If I'm viewing a folder full of pictures, it'll put them into the right general order, making it easier to find those pictures as I want to look at them or view them chronologically. Now, additionally, you have the ability to add title and description and other information here, as well as tag people that are in those pictures. So as we go into pictures, again, you can see that we've started to tag relatives to make this a bit easier. And I can assign an approximate date. This one, I'm not sure when it was, other than the broad 1970s. I can go ahead and talk to my mom and try to pick up on details here for background clues, like whose baby picture is that? Or, do you recognize this event? But we can locate that key information and load it into the picture to help with the sorting or the organization. So this comes in handy as you're working. And that's the exact same sort of thing that I did with many of these. I can look up the wedding date for my grandparents, et cetera. Well, how could I find that information? Well, one of the ways you could do that, and we integrate nicely with this, is familysearch.org. So this is a nonprofit website that you can log into and do research and get details about your family. So, for example, I've connected in and I've started to load in my family tree. And so if I navigate to people, like here is my grandfather and grandmother, and I click, I can see key information. For example, births, weddings, deaths, all of those things, right? Key things here like military service, where they've lived. So this gives you that ability to really go into that information and be able to see things about an individual family member. And so you can use that to then up level that and be able to explore them and learn more about a family member. So you can see here all of those key details, and you can add more. So I see, for example, that their wedding was August 23rd, 1942 in Chicago, Illinois. So what we can do here is I can locate photos from their wedding like these. Now that was probably done before the service in a more posed environment, but I can still broadly sort these. And as I choose things from that important day, and I begin to find those, again, you can come on over and instead of September 5th, 2024, when those pictures were scanned, why not give them a more meaningful date? So in this case, that August 23rd, 1942. So I'll assign that to a all day range, August 23rd. Let's switch that to 1942. There we go. And click save. And now they update and sort correctly historically. And I can continue to go through and start to make that cleanup. Now, I want to point out that as you're working in Mylio, it doesn't matter what device you're working on. You'll notice over here on the right, I actually have my folder tree. This is all the folders I've added to Mylio Photos. So I can see over here that in my scans folder and personal photos, I have a folder called Kabita for my grandparents. I can just drag those into that folder now and get them out of my to sort and organize folder. And now they're actually moved on my hard drive and they're cleaned up. So not only does Mylio let you organize with information and metadata, you can actually move things around. So here I have photos of my great-grandparents, including their wedding and much later in life. I can select those and just drag them into the great-grandparents folder and they move. So, and this I should probably drag into the trash, but there's your embarrassing band photo as a teenager, actually a preteen. So, why not? We can all be human. So this allows you to take that content and really get it precisely organized, whether you use folders or albums or anything else. Mylio gives you all that right at your fingertips. Okay, so we talked about the ability to add this information. In this case, we were adding a date, a fuzzy date in most cases, because we don't have a precise timestamp. There's no exact hours, minutes, and seconds that I want to plug in, and it's certainly not the date when the file was created. So by injecting this into the files, it just helps them be more visible and easier. I can also add a title and a description and tag the people and even put the information in about where that picture happened or where it was taken. So, that gives you those benefits of really having more control over things. So, for example, if I decided to post this photo from my grandparents' wedding, right? Couple things here. I can clean this picture up. I can enhance it. I can, add information to it. But let's say I was ready to share this picture and I've got my great grandfather and my great grandmother. Well, I don't have an approximate date for this, but I can look up when their wedding was and assign something that was more close to that. So as we start to dig into these, I can see my different relatives. So we'll go into her side and I see her parents. And if I look over, I can start to find other key information about life events and look to add that in. Okay. So as you can see here, that becomes quite useful, right? We have that ability to go in and capture information about our relatives and add that information into the files, which works really nicely. So we can then have things be more organized. Okay, let's keep going. So we've talked about adding the date shown. This, again, is pretty straightforward. You just need to select the image that you want to adjust, and then you can assign approximate details. So if I look at this folder of lovely pictures from 1981, and I can see things like, hey, this looks like it was a birthday party. That was my birthday party. Well, I could assign that a more specific date. That was probably my birthday. And so I could enter that date and hit save. More likely, though, we probably got together on the weekend. So I'm going to pick the weekend before my birthday. And you see, you can assign a date so that approximately sorts. Up here, I see some photos from Christmas time. So I can select waking up on Christmas morning and getting my first bike, to our tree and some of these. And again, say, hey, let's go ahead and assign a general date range here of month and year. And we'll go with December 1981. And you see they sort accordingly and get placed in the right spot. Okay. Additionally, you can do effective editing here right inside of Mylio too. So you can straighten pictures, you can crop, you can step into a photo and very quickly adjust the color and exposure, and you can enhance them. So you've got all of that. You could do a nice black and white. You can adjust the overall contrast with a simple slider. So there's a lot you can do in there to very quickly get those correct. Or even advanced for things like red eye, you can go in with the red eye brush and go ahead and remove that on scanned photos like I just did there. So you can do very easy things like that to enhance the image and, take care of any major issues like that you might have in a photo. Okay. All right. So we talked about setting the date. That's pretty straightforward. You can dial in a specific date, a region, a month, a season, a year, or a range. And of course, those face tags. Now, the easiest way with face tags is when you go to a set of photos that have been recently brought in, Mylio will scan those pictures and look for faces that have not yet been identified. So when you first bring it in, it will see those faces and ask you, who are these people? Normally, there'll be no name attached, but then you can click and you could type in the name, or you'll see suggestions of who it thinks it is. And so in this case, it's not surprising. It's actually recommending that this child is probably my Uncle Edgy. But there's also genetic similarity to his brother Dominic or his sister, my grandmother Grace. Well, look, Mylio actually picked up on that and made those suggestions by looking at facial similarity and other photos. So as you move through pictures, you'll see that Mylio will often make suggestions to you on who is in a photo, so you can then confirm it. And it's always wild when you see a photo of your grandmother at age 19. So it's always interesting to go back in time. But it's great as you go through. And then if there's people you don't care about in the pictures, you can choose to ignore those people if they're not a part of your family or something that you want to organize. Okay. So this makes it possible to go through and tag all those folks. And from time to time, you can also launch the batch tagger, and it will scan through all of the pictures and clump them together. I've already done this recently, so I don't have any to suggest, but I'll fake it here in a moment. I'm just going to lower my criteria so it gets a little more aggressive with grouping. And so now when I launch that, let's do batch face tagging. Just give it a second to update. There we go. It will come back and start to find others that it will suggest. I've recently already tagged and approved a bunch of pictures, so that doesn't surprise me. You can also, at any point in time under the people container, just navigate to your untagged folder and see who's in there. And these are ones that you can also tag. So, these are ones that it's starting to analyze and suggest. And it's very easy to go through and tag people or even select a range of people. And we can tag them like that. And then it picks up those face tags. Okay. And as you tag more people, it will learn who somebody is. So you can go ahead and teach it, and it will actually start to learn more, and it will improve in accuracy as it keeps going. Okay. That makes sense so far? That ability to go in and add information about who's in your pictures. And again, you can do this with a batch operation, or you can review these, and it's very easy to pick that up. Now, the benefit with that is as you need to then find things, it gets simpler and simpler. So in the future, if I wanted to find pictures of, say, my mom with my daughter, I could just do a search for both of their names. And with the modifier of and in there, I've now found 334 photos that happen to match that criteria. Everything from my daughter's 17th birthday to before her first birthday. And as you can see there, it's a great range of content, and you can very quickly find those family memories. The other nice benefit here is as you do tag things, we give you very easy pivot points. So, for example, this was my daughter's confirmation. I can open that and I'll clear out the filter. And I see up here the ability to see all the pictures from that same day. With just a click, I'm now seeing pictures that were captured on that same day. Or maybe I want to remember where that picture was taken. I can click and I can actually see that right on the map and see if there's anything else there that we visited or pictures nearby. So that gives you all that information, and it helps it make it much more discoverable as you're working with your content and to find things that are related. You'll also notice in those same search criteria that it also is able to read text. So in this case, it's not just photos. This particular one was the baptismal announcement, and it was actually able to read in the names of people and found that and surfaced that information. It read my mom's email, Carol, and Colleen. Even in this fancy script, Mylio's OCR was able to pick that up. And so that's why I encourage you to also scan in memories. So we've got everything here from my grandfather's high school reunion to announcements and notes and articles and important cards and birth certificates and all of these things. All of that stuff can be searched when you do a search, and it will find it, which is really quite cool. So if we start to type in a word, there, it found the word registration. And in this case, it found 51 photos that had different things related to medical certificates and birth certificates and immigration certificates. It also found other things where there was pictures on screens and such. So it's amazing how much of that information is searchable. And if you're not concerned, you might really think about the benefits that Mylio offers when like every single computer out there can read the word password. And so if you are posting all those files to the cloud in an unencrypted state, think about all that data that is up there to get searched and indexed and extracted from other people's servers. So with Mylio, we do something a little bit different. You're totally optional if you want to post stuff to the cloud. And if you do put it on the cloud, we encrypt it so only your devices can see it. But I'm hoping that as you see what this looks like, that the concept of text recognition perhaps scares you a little bit on how all the things you have pictures of can get read and indexed like credit cards. See? So it's a good idea to keep in mind what you post to the cloud. Okay. We talked about face tags. Hopefully that seems pretty straightforward. It's really great to go in and be able to identify the people in your picture. But not only do we let you tag the people, you can actually go in and put additional information about each person. And we give you the ability to connect to your address book as well as to your family search family tree. So what that looks like is this. If I go over to my people container, I can select an individual person in the person container, like my friend Abba. I can open this up and I can come down here and choose a contact and just simply search through my address book. And then I'd be able to connect to him and sync that information in. Okay. So I've already done that in this case. Hence, I've got things like his phone number and his email. And what's cool about that is not only do I have some information about him, but let's say I was thinking about my friend and I said, I really loved the time we got a chance to go visit Israel together and we went into the Dead Sea. We're covered in Dead Sea mud here. Or it was great traveling with you and our friend Ben. I can click here and start a new email with everybody who's in the group. So if I connect my friend Ben to his address book card, I can now email Ben this photo or start a group chat or a group text message and relive memories and start the conversation. Or I can ask them, hey, where exactly was that? I remember we went to this place, but where were we? So I can dig in and pull up those details and start to connect the dots. Additionally, if it's a family member, you can also click and connect them with Family Search. Let me just go ahead and straighten these photos here really quick. I'll just rotate those as a group. There we go. So the benefit here is I can collect here and then choose a Family Search contact. It will connect you to your Family Search family tree, and they have all sorts of tools so you can find relatives. And effectively, it will show you the first couple generations. So here, like I'm seeing up to my grandparents. And if I click a button to expand, it's going to load in additional relatives and expand that out to more folks. So there I see Alice Colosi, who's my Aunt Alice. And so I can select that and hit continue. And it will actually connect and sync all of that data in and connect her to my account. So that way I can add in details and information, and I can have it so that her info is attached to her photo. Additionally, not only is it her info, but it will also be her relatives and such. So for example, if I select here, I can see information like who was her husband, who was her daughters. And so it connects that. And as I share pictures with her, so if I decide to post one of these photos up and I share that to Family Search, it will add that to my archive and it will also connect it to the people in the picture. So for example, now if we go to that Family Search page for that individual, we can actually see that and be able to look at what that is. So here it is, posted to Family Search. And I can go in and browse photos. This one's currently processing, which means they actually review things before they go live. But there's the face tags, and it actually connects to each person. And once a person is deceased, then other family members can actually see it. So if they've connected to her on her tree, they'll be able to actually discover this, because I know that I have photos that her many great-grandchildren don't have. And now all of her relatives will be able to see that. And we could add information and also adjust the visibility here of this picture if we're willing to make it public or want to keep it private to ourselves. So it's pretty cool that all that information you add inside of Mylio is actually attached to the picture. So you can have the face tags and you can have details. You can have all the information about the memory. And if you've added things like the map or the location for it, all of that will actually carry with the picture as well, which is really pretty cool. So you can see there that I've got the caption and information. And in the future, it has information about where this picture took place and who was in it, which is pretty cool. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys about the benefits of being able to pass on your family history information and make it discoverable by future generations. Here I actually see the location where it was too. So Mylio gives you all that flexibility. So if you want to add details about where a picture was taken, then we geotag that picture. And so you just select the photo, and then you can add information using our map view. I'll show you what that looks like. So let's say I know some general details about where something occurred. Okay. So I'm going to go over here and open up some pictures that do not have geotags. Let me find some here real quick. Here we go. So I want to add information to this picture. Okay. So what I can do is come on over to the map panel and do a search. If you want a bigger map, you can click the little triangle here and it will open it up. And you can do a search. See? And so you can start to find things and navigate. Look for things within, type in the city and state you want to go to more specifics, etc. But this gives you that ability to navigate and find things, which is pretty cool. Okay. So this way you can actually add those details right to your pictures, which are pretty cool. Okay. So for example, I can come right here and just say that photo was actually right there and confirm it. And now that picture has metadata information added into it, which is pretty cool. Okay. Additionally, if you need to, you can also add that information in other ways. So let me go to a folder here and I'll go to some additional scans. And let's say I have some broad details about a picture, right? And I want to add in some relevant information. So I see here, I recognize this as my grandparents' house. So I can tag that. I can come on over and just type in the address. There we go. Give me 1 second. My keyboard is being strange because of the keyboard shortcut tool. There we go. And you can start typing in where you want to go and then navigate there. There we are. Takes me in. I see the general location where I'm at. I can keep zooming and zooming. There's Kenilworth Drive. I remember this is the river that flooded my grandparents' house a bunch of times. And this was their house right there. Drag and drop. And I can now confirm that detail, which is pretty cool. What's also great is in the future, once you've got a picture tagged, you can see other things there. So if I say explore that location on the map, it's going to actually take me and I can start to see the different pieces. So let me go back to the folder view here and close this. And so now what we can do is actually browse that. And I see that there are, in fact, 21 pictures that I've tagged at that location. And there are different pictures of time periods through there. So I can go back in and keep finding other pictures that I knew happened at their house and add that information to it. But what's also cool is, remember, that information is discoverable. So when you look it up on the web, you can drop into things like Google Maps and you can then explore it. You can drop in and go all the way into Google Street View and have a look around, right? That's their house right there that they grew up in. So you can actually see these things and get driving directions, get extra detail and information about the places you visit. And so this gives you that control to really understand where something happened and to have some context clues for future generations. So that works out really nicely. As you add information into your pictures, it becomes nice and robust. Okay. And remember, you can get lots of this information off of Family Search. Like you can look up residences from past censuses and where they lived or grew up or who relatives were as you want to start to add this information in to your pictures. So here's an example of running the census report on my grandfather on my father's side. I was able to get general information about his birth year and his job and where he grew up and where they were living, and then inject that information into everyone to get better details about all of that. And then as I continue to publish photos, this also can be resurfaced. So, for example, while I am close with one of my cousins, so for example, my Aunt Jackie, while I am close with my cousin Kelly, her daughter, I'm not close with her brother, but I would still prefer that he has access to these photos. So as I post key family memories to Family Search, they'll be able to get these. So everything from, her being in my mom's wedding to them at my wedding, to her and her brother growing up at that same house. So being able to put this information in is great because it means that all the relatives will be able to find it. So in this case, my Aunt Kitty's children, who I've never spent much time with, or my Aunt Linda's children, same thing, we haven't spent much time with since my parents divorced, they can still get these important childhood photos by connecting to Family Search and looking up their mom. And so that's something I think is important, that as we, the ones who choose to organize family history, we can share that with everyone else so that they can really enjoy those pictures and we can have embarrassing moments like this. Because, this is an embarrassing photo for just about everybody in it. One is the 70s, and yeah, we'll just stop there. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. And then you have that ability to browse and see things on a map. And that gives you context about where people grew up, the surrounding neighborhood, what it was like. Also, while you're traveling, you can use that Photo Explorer option to make those connections as I showed you. So that gives you that ability when you come across a great photo to start the message. So if I'm here, I can start a call with my dad or text him this picture and say, I'm thinking of him. If I select my Aunt Jackie and connect her address card, I could start a group message and again, get them talking around the picture, ask a question about what it was like. So it's wonderful to have those communication tools built right in as we're working with our content. Okay. As we tag people, I like being able to inject that information. I find that it's going to help with these pivot points. And as things go forward, it helps put those connections in because you can start a message and open it up. Now, searching and filtering are also quite good. And what I like to point out here is our approach is a lot like how you might go shopping on Amazon.com. So if you went to Amazon and you weren't sure what you wanted, you might just type something in. And you're going to get a lot of hits. That's what search does. It searches everything and it comes back. Then you might decide to narrow that down a bit and say, oh, I'm actually just looking for toys and games. And then when you click, it filters it. And then you were like, oh, wait, I was looking for Monopoly. So I'll press Command F for find and start to type it in. And like, oh, did you look for this Monopoly? Yeah, that one. Or, oh, well, there's the next one. I just clicked the next button, it jumped. So that's the exact same way that Mylio Photos can work. So under our ability here for dynamic search, we can search for just about anything we want. So if I type in something generic like eagle, it's going to find photos with eagle. It's going to find a folder called Eagle Ceremony. It's going to find addresses with eagle in it. It found events from the calendar, right? All these things. It read text. It was able to read a letter that my mom wrote me. in cursive, which always amazes me. So you can find these things and be able to locate something that matters. So in this case, I found a memory. Oh, we are at the scout office and I'm with my kids who are both Eagle Scouts, and our family makes a donation when they reach their Eagle Scout rank as a thank you to all the people who helped them get there. So we make a donation back to scouting. So if I look at that, not only can it read the text there, which is really amazing that like it was able to read Colleen Harrington, Eagle Scout by her foot, but again, with just a pivot, I can see all the pictures that were taken there. And so here's all the photos that we ever took there as a family. So I can go backwards in time. And now it's my son getting his Eagle Scout. Or it's the first time we went there when they were both really young. And so I could explore things the way the human memory works. And with just a click, oh, let me see more pictures of my son. Now I'm seeing memories, and that might trigger something that I want to dig into. So as you explore, this allows you to resurface things. And so you'll come across a memory, and then, for example, this one here. Oh, I really like that. Let me show that day. Yeah, that was the birthday party I had after finally, years of not having birthday parties during the pandemic. Of course, my wife got sick with COVID and couldn't go, but we were able to finally go do a family activity with my mom and my kids. And we went out and had food, and we explored this really fun dopamine rush exhibit. That was a series of like photo stations and cool things with lights. One picture found that memory and triggered it for me. And I was able to pivot and find everything else from that day, which is pretty cool. So just pointing out the way that that stuff works. So with Mylio Photos, you have search to find things at a high level. Once you find things at that high level, you could apply filters like, hey, I only want to see the 4-star photos and the 5-star photos that I rated. And now the pictures get whittled down to the better ones that you chose. Or maybe I only want to see pictures that Colleen is in. So I'll just start to type her name, and I can filter. And now it narrows it down to only showing me the pictures that she was in from that day, as opposed to all the pictures that we had. See? So that really makes it easier to narrow things down. So we use search to find the big stuff, and then filters to narrow it down. And then once you've done that, you can search within. So let's say I went back to that thing here with all those scans, and I was trying to find something in here. I could just type in find and type in registration, and it will start to do that search. Or I could type in the name of something here. And again, it will find things that match and let you navigate between those very quickly based on the matching name. So that's a useful way to look within a container, is the find command. Okay. All right. Angela, any questions or things that we need to talk about yet?
There is one question from Wendy, and she's asking, for adding genealogy and family history information to metadata, how much info can be added to an image? What's the character limit for event descriptions, dates, names, locations, census details, relationship citations, and best practices?
Sure. So I'm not positive on the exact character count limit. There are some limits in the metadata standards that are sort of global caps, but the description one is pretty darn long. So that one should be fine. That's where you can really go long. There really is not a best practice other than try to use things that are generally descriptive. And if you can, the benefit of connecting to Family Search is that while somebody is alive, for example, my mom, thankfully, is still with us. So when I connect that and I connect her, that part's fine. She gets connected, but she's marked as a living person. And so I don't have to worry about these other connections here, right? So it's got everything in here, but I've connected that to her. In the future, Family Search will reconcile if there happens to be multiple instances of that. So, for example, my mom's sister passed away from pancreatic cancer a few years ago. Her children could have had pictures of her. She has 3 children. I had pictures of her. We started uploading those pictures, and we each initially, while she was alive, would have had a unique ID for her because she was still alive, and there'd be some privacy there around her key details. But upon a death event, Family Search then reconciles that and will, after it's been confirmed on the tree of relationships, it will start to merge those together so the family members can discover things and find it. And so that's really important. Additionally, when you add metadata in Mylio, if it's a JPEG, I would encourage you, after you get done editing things over here under the photo menu, you can choose the option to save the metadata to the file, and that will embed it in the JPEG file. Not only the sidecar file that Mylio has in the database, but it will actually write it into the individual file, and that's very quick. You can do it a folder or so at a time or a range of photos at a time, but it's a good thing to manually invoke it when you're done editing as an additional backup method. So that ultimately comes down to you can add the details that you want to a picture. So here they're both tagged, but I might add an event here that says, Charles Marlowe event for Shriners, installation as state leader, grandmaster. Return. Now that description is injected into the picture and will provide some historical context about this event that I just happen to remember because I was there. My memory's not that great, right? But I could provide that context or detail in the description area. If you come down here to location, you have some additional information that you can add, which is kind of useful. So not only can you inject the information about the present day location, but we have the ability to add information about the past. So if you select a picture that is older and you infuse it with info, so for example, here, I'm going to add information about where these pictures were. It's the cursor thing. Let me turn it off. It's getting in the way really quick. It doesn't like me to type, so give me 1 second. So you can do a search there based on like the name of a church here, for example. And it will attempt to find that like so. So there, it's not the one in Ireland. So I'd have to be more specific. But I could say Our Lady of Knock, Calumet City, Illinois. Okay. And so it will begin to locate that information and pan me to the general location that that picture was taken, and then you can tag it. Additionally, if you have a photo like that that is tagged, then you can also have it look up information. Let me turn this little overlay off for a second, and it should stop doing this weird thing with the cursor. There we go. Okay, 1 second. Yep. Copy, paste. There we go. So it found the church. So I can select all of those wedding photos and drop them on the church and confirm them. But additionally, what we can do over here in the info panel is we can have it look up information based on the timestamps of that. So you can actually look up the historical location based on the date of the photo, and it could find extra information about the context. So if it was an older one, like the church changed names or the city changed names, we actually have a historical location field shown, And this takes the GPS coordinates from present day and overlays it with a historical database from the Family Search Organization and attempts to look up historical name information. It's particularly useful for things like churches and cemeteries and cities and countries that have had their name changed. So you can inject that extra information there into the photo. And then you can also add additional notes down here related to family search that you want about that person. And that's another place where you could store some information about the person as a whole on the person container. Okay. All right. We talked about OCR search. That's quite useful to be able to look by text. And the other thing I'll say is that Mylio Photos makes it very easy once you've started to add this metadata to do stuff with it. So not only can you search, but we have very powerful filters. So filters make it easy for you to use criteria. So if I wanted to see all the photos from a certain time period, I could do that. So I can come down here and go by a particular time period. And from here, you can choose what you look for. So I'm going to say by date. And I want to look for everything that happens to be on a particular month. Let's go with December. And I want all the pictures from December 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th. And now, irregardless of years, I have driven into all sorts of pictures from different holiday celebrations and trips that my family's taken together over the Christmas holidays. And so I can dial in. Or maybe I want to find all pictures from the 4th of July. And I'd like to narrow that down even more by going into time of day, pictures from early evening, evening, and night. And now all of a sudden, I've got fireworks celebrations and picnics. And I was able to narrow that down very quickly. So we have these very flexible tools so you can search across all your stuff. And that makes it easy to find things and move it or add metadata or information. But you can sort on all sorts of criteria. Additionally, you can apply those same things when you set up a device. So maybe you have an iPad that you want to give to a family member. You can categorize it to only show them family history photos and then go under and specifically choose exactly what they're able to see. Go in and pick things like only put the family history pictures on there. And not just family history, but maybe only the 4-star and 5 stars, because those are the ones that I've processed and cleaned up. So you can go in and be very precise with what gets synced to each device. And it makes it very easy to create albums for sharing or anything else of that nature. Okay. I hope this gives you guys some ideas. I would definitely encourage you to check out the integration with Family Search. It's a very fun way to get key info about your family and add those details to your pictures. I'll also point out that when you go to share content, don't worry. Mylio always puts you in control. So while I stick all sorts of metadata into my photos that I have, when I'm going to share these pictures on a place like social media, I generally remove that info because I don't want it shared. So, I might want to share this picture that I'm really happy with cleaning up of my relatives, but maybe I don't want to share all of the tags and all of the GPS data or other stamps. So when you go to share things, we always give you the ability when you get ready to export that or share it, that you can choose what information is copied. So with Safe Share, it strips away all the metadata before you post it, or you can go in and choose what information is included in the file when you make your new file. So you are always in control. And I just want to point that out, that while you might feel comfortable adding all this information in your library, you don't have to worry about all this information being put into your pictures online or being discoverable by other people. And remember, Mylio Photos makes it easy to then organize albums or links. And as you do that, you could then take pictures, get them all collated and together, publish that as an album or a shareable link. And then we give you the ability to post that as a web page with a downloadable archive So you can invite family members to get photos from key events and to just really get that out there. And the last thing I'll point out is that one of the best parts about Mylio Photos is the protection aspect. So in your Mylio Photos account, it's a really good idea to add a vault. Most people add more than one. In my case, I have my NAS and I have an external hard drive as a vault. You can also attach cloud drives, or you can use Mylio Drive as a vault if you want. And a vault is going to have a backup copy of everything. So every picture on my phone, my Android phone, our family iPad, every computer, when that device is on, so I'll just launch Mylio on my phone, that device will pick up that there's pictures that need to be sent in, and it will connect and it will start to transfer those to backup. See, now it's starting to sync those. So with each device that you enable, as you turn devices on or they're powered on and they're on the network, those pictures will then back up and it will pick up the changes that it needs, which means with Mylio Photos, you are protected with the Mylio Photos Plus plan against the failure of a device or the loss of a device. So that gives you some additional protection, which is really good because that does happen a lot where a hard drive can fail or you can lose something like a phone or a tablet. This will protect you against that loss. So you don't have to worry about a lost device or a failed device, meaning that all those pictures were gone. Okay, well, I appreciate you guys coming out. When you launch the Mylio Photos app, I'll just point out that if you want to learn more, you can open up our Learn panel here. And there's a great set of tutorials right at the top. You also should check out the Ready, Set, Go event that Lori hosts. She's on here. This is an event where there's multiple live sessions each week. If you like a more one-on-one approach, we also offer optional paid plans that you can add additional support so you can have a professional help you get organized and get up and running. But the Ready, Set, Go is included with your membership, and that'll let you join a small group and ask questions. We also have live chat in here, so you can interact with support folks in the team, or quick answers to questions. So if you want to find out how to use something like, how do I do a search with the find command, or how do quick filters work? And you can go in and be able to get the key information, sometimes a short video with a link over to the detailed manual entry if you want to go deeper. So the Learn panel is going to have all the most essential stuff in there that you might need. Okay. So if you're brand new, please feel free to give it a try. Just head on over to mylio.com/buy now, and you can use the code of Mylio10. Mylio also includes a 30-day money-back guarantee for those of you who are new. So we encourage you to give it a shot and take a look at it. And again, you get some really great value there with the product. I'd encourage you to explore it. But for me, what it really comes down to is that as I'm working with my pictures, as I'm keeping both the present day photos and the photos from the past, I have everything in one place. So no matter where I am, I have these pictures. I can take out my phone, I can take out my tablet, and I have access to them. And one of the things I really love is that while my photo library collection is huge, it takes up 12 terabytes of storage space. On my phone and tablet, it takes up almost no space at all because I could tap a button and download what I need when I need it. Or if I want to work offline, like on my tablet, I just give it permission to keep all the optimized images, and I can work with or without an internet connection. And I always have a 5x7 photo on that device. Enough resolution to print, share to a television screen, post to social media, send to a family member. So when I travel, I have almost 500,000 pictures with me, which means that when something pops up, I can be thoughtful. When there's a family member to remember, or there's a special day, or I need to cheer somebody up, I can go in and find a great photo from our past and share it with my cousin or my mom or anyone like that and really relive some of these great memories. And, we need a place to put things, from the ultrasound photos of your kids to, the things of when we lose our parents, to be able to have things and information. And as I go through and I start to put the work in, like, I took these old photos that were multiple parts and scanned them together. I'm taking the time to start to fix them and enhance them. Well, I want these protected and backed up because they become important family options. And so you're able to pull that stuff together. And Mylio works great with other tools. So if you want to hand off to Photoshop Elements to do a little bit of additional touch-up, it's just a click away. If you want to share to another service, you can just go right to your clipboard and then copy and paste. So we really take care of the aspect of keeping all your stuff organized and making it easy to search, discover, and share from one central place. All right. If there's any other questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys all coming out. I hope this gives you some ideas on how to really enjoy your photos. I'll just take a look at the chat and the Q&A. And if there's anything else, Angela or Lori, feel free to let me know.
Yeah, there's one more question that just popped up in the Q&A. And does Mylio have whole app search, meaning if I have info in description, can Mylio search for a term that I use in the description or title field?
I believe those are searched, but let's do a quick check. So I'm going to put a strange word. Okay.
They are.
So I just put a very strange word into the description, and let's do that as well. So willow and oaks. And let's do a search for the word willow. There it is. See, it's always much better when I could show you that immediately and how quick that was. As soon as I added that word in, that word became searchable. And apparently this also has the word willow in it because why? It's in here in the description. It's describing, it's in one of the keywords probably for this. And so you can actually have keywords in there as well, and those can be searchable too.
And search results will also return anything that OCR has found. So if there was a photo with the word willow on it, that would also be returned. One of my favorite things for me about our dynamic search is that if you are not very specific, Mylio will search everywhere, in every field, in the OCR, etc. But you can also be very specific, and there's a section in our manual that tells you how to do very, very specific search for those of you that are geeky like me and like to create this.
Yeah, you can tell it to search just certain fields. It's pretty straightforward, but here's that search in action. My mom went to Ellis Island and did a rubbing on my grandmother as she emigrated to the country, and it found it, which is pretty amazing. And I just searched on the word Ellis and it found this. This is something that I just got. And, it's actually reading here as well, in other things that we scanned in or on tombstones. I mean, it's amazing what OCR can do. And there's so much information in our pictures. And it's great to be able to find that and to be able to search on something when you have a memory or an idea. It just opens up so many things. So, for example, I remember that here, and I could do a search and I can find things searching on Oz or on the word wizard, for example, right? So I can actually dig in and explore. And here I found the scanned in thing my mom had from our 7th or 8th grade play. And now when I want to go back and tag that photo of who are the people in that school photo, I now have accurate spellings and names from many of my classmates. So this will help me if I wanted to reconnect or search or share. So as I'm getting ready for a high school or a grade school reunion, or I reconnect with somebody on Facebook, it helps me locate things. So that's why I think scanning in old documents and things like this is important. And you can do this often right from a phone with like a scanning app on your phone, like Adobe Scan, or if you have a scanner at home, same thing. You can load that stuff in. And it's just such a wealth of info that I would encourage you to add in so that information is there as you start organizing your folders. So I can go in and tag my grade school friend, Brian Kotlowski, who I would never remember how to spell that name if it wasn't written down. So, that gives me that ability to make sure that that's tagged correctly, which will then give us an opportunity to find pictures and share them. And they just don't make velour sport coats like that anymore, do they, JC?
Correct.
There's one more question that popped up in the Q&A from Michael. He'd like to know the difference between a folder and an album.
Sure. Folders are absolute. They exist on your actual hard drive somewhere, and a file can only exist in one folder. So, it's like an actual storage unit on your device. So these are real world folders. So if I select something like this and I say, show me in the Finder, it'll actually take me there and there's actual files. And if I were to drag things in there at the Finder level or the Explorer level, it would be in there. Albums are virtual. So they're like a playlist for music. And so you could see here that the same picture can appear in multiple albums. So if I make, a folder of the best pictures from my daughter's Eagle Scout ceremony, but then I also do a set of selects for that year, it could be there. Or I could have two different collections of graduation photos or pictures of my grandparents. And so a picture can exist in more than one album. And albums also allow you to set the order of pictures for how they play back. You could drag them into a custom order. You can go in and delete things from an album to whittle it down to just the best ones you want for a slideshow, but you're not actually throwing those pictures away on your hard drive. Anything else?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I think we've covered all the questions.
Great.
If there's any last minute questions, go ahead and pop them into the Q&A. Otherwise, I think we're done.
Great. And make sure, guys, you open up that Learn panel. And from our help menu, you'll find shortcut links to our video course on learning Mylio Photos, access to troubleshooting support articles, the ability to join the community and ask questions. We're really well known for having an extensive community of resources. So make sure you guys check that out. Thank you guys so much for coming out. And I hope you have as much fun organizing old memories as I have, and also protecting those modern memories so that your kids and next generations can really dig in and enjoy all these things that really define us as who we are as families and human beings. Thanks, guys.